The Cook. A historical fiction of love, identity and fate by S.J. Yepsen. Chapter 35. The Price of Nobility. Weatherby House, Long Island, May 2nd, 1912. On the same night that the Earl and Countess had arrived to Weatherby House when dinner was over, guests had gone, and the family had settled into their beds for the night. And after the congenial conversation in the drawing-room had concluded, Charles Weatherby, American industrialist, self-made and fiercely protective of his legacy, leaned toward the Earl of Grantham with a courteous nod.
"Lord Grantham, if you'd join me in the library?"
It was the room where the real negotiations of men were held, far from polite company and listening ears. Charles led him down the corridor and opened the carved oak door. Within, the air was warm with the soft glow of a banker's lamp and the faint scent of aged whiskey. Books lined the mahogany shelves with the precision of an armory. Tolstoy's War and Peace, Carnegie's Essays, Veblen's Critiques. Walter Bagehot's Lombard Street lay half open on a lower shelf, as if its reader had been interrupted mid-perusal. Here at last the masks of polite conversation fell away. On the large mahogany desk lay a thick sheet of parchment, its inked terms defining the financial arrangement that would bind their families together. They took their seats opposite one another. 2 men, 2 worlds, 1 contract. The weight of expectations settled between them like a third presence. Reginald set down his crystal glass of scotch, his sharp, pale eyes assessing the document before him. He turned each page thoughtfully. He took his time, reading through the minute details of the agreement, his face giving no indication. And, at last, he tapped one long finger against the final sum.
$2 million.
He murmured, the number rolling off his tongue like a carefully weighed commodity.
Generous. But, of course, expected.
Charles Weatherby, seated across from him, exhaled slowly, his hands steepled in careful thought.
"Lydia is my only daughter,"
he said, his voice even.
"Her security is paramount."
Reginald's mouth curled, barely a smile.
And my son's, I assure you, is no less important.
A moment of silence stretched between them, a quiet battle of wills, an understanding between men who did not deal in sentiment, but in contracts, fortunes, and alliances. Charles lifted the gold-plated pen beside him, his gaze steady.
"The sum includes an immediate transfer of $1 million in liquid assets placed in a trust under Thomas's management."
Reginald inclined his head.
And the remainder?
$500,000 in Weatherby shipping shares. This will yield annual dividends.
Charles tapped the parchment.
The remaining sum to be delivered in full upon the birth of the first child.
Reginald's expression remained unreadable.
An heir.
Charles's voice was firm.
A necessary guarantee.
Reginald studied him carefully, considering. Then, at last, he nodded.
Acceptable terms.
He reached for the fountain pen, signing his name in precise aristocratic script, sealing the arrangement as if it were a business transaction, because in many ways, it was. Charles did the same. The contract was complete, the deal was struck, and with it, Lydia Weatherby had been bought into nobility. Reginald leaned back in his chair, regarding Charles with quiet amusement.
I must commend you, Weatherby. You are not a man who leaves matters to chance.
Charles gave a wry smile.
"Neither are you, Lord."
Reginald chuckled softly, swirling the last of his scotch.
Indeed.
The room was quiet, save for the ticking of the mantel clock and the faint clink of crystal as Charles poured 2 fingers of brandy into a cut-glass tumbler and handed it to his guest. Reginald accepted the glass with a nod of gratitude.
You've always had an eye for good spirits, Weatherby.
Charles offered the ghost of a smile.
"It's one of the few indulgences I still allow myself."
They sat in companionable silence for a moment before the Earl spoke again, his tone clipped but measured.
I must say, I'm pleased we've formalised the arrangement between young Lord Thomas and Miss Lydia. Timing is everything in matters like these.
Charles inclined his head.
Indeed, the markets are volatile, and more than that, Washington is stirring.
Reginald raised a brow.
In what way?
Charles nodded, his expression darkening.
Congress is poised to pass the Federal Reserve Act before year's end, a central banking system.
Reginald sipped his brandy slowly.
That means the dollar will slip from the hands of free men to be governed instead by a board of unelected bankers.
Is this meant to be progress?
Reginald asked. Charles's smile was tight.
It's control, not progress, and control seldom favors the man who built his fortune from steel and sweat. The power to inflate, to contract, to tax.
Reginald considered this.
And you believe this will damage the dollar?
Charles gave a humorless smile.
Eventually it will. They've been working on it since at least Jekyll Island.
Reginald raised an eyebrow.
Jekyll Island?
Charles nodded.
Back in 1910, Aldrich convened it. Morgan's men were there, National City, Kuhn, Loeb, and Paul Warburg, the German. Brilliant man. But a dangerous one. He understands what most Americans do not, that whoever controls the issuance of money controls the economy.
He swirled the brandy in his glass, his voice lowering.
And then there's Astor. His body's been found.
He paused.
His funeral Saturday morning, before the wedding. We'll be expected to make an appearance, of course.
He interrupted himself.
A cruel juxtaposition, don't you think? The burial of a titan and the birth of an alliance.
Reginald's gaze sharpened.
I had heard he opposed this banking scheme you speak of.
He certainly did,
Charles replied, his voice low.
Astor was no fool. He knew what a central bank meant for men like us, called it bondage, wrapped in progress.
He took a slow sip of brandy before continuing.
Strauss, Guggenheim, they were skeptics as well, and all three of them on Titanic. Not one lived to raise his voice against it. The tide clears the board of its strongest players, just as Washington makes its move.
He exhaled, slow and heavy. For the first time, Reginald's expression shifted, thoughtful rather than detached.
A convenient silencing.
His pale eyes narrowed.
Surely, you are not suggesting, Weatherby, that the Titanic was brought down for such an end?
Charles's jaw tightened, his gaze steady but measured.
I suggest nothing so crude. But we've both lived long enough to know that power seldom grieves when fortune clears its path.
He paused.
Call it providence, call it coincidence, or call it what it so often is, opportunity seized in the shadows.
Reginald regarded him a long moment, then leaned back in his chair, the firelight catching in his glass.
Dangerous thoughts, Weatherby.
Charles allowed himself the faintest of smiles.
The most dangerous thoughts, Lord Grantham, are often the truest.
He paused.
Whether by chance or fate, it has cleared the path. The loudest voices against this scheme are gone, and those of us who remain
He tapped the parchment between them.
must prepare accordingly.
Reginald studied him, expression unreadable.
And the President?
Taft has been cautious. Wilson, if elected, will not be. He'll do what Roosevelt lacked the finesse to finish.
A central bank in peacetime?
Reginald murmured.
Unprecedented.
Charles nodded.
One with the full machinery of taxation behind it.
He shook his head in frustration.
The 16th Amendment will be ratified. That much is certain. Washington's been waiting decades for this power. They won't let it slip. The income tax is on its way.
Charles asserted.
Soon, a free man will be taxed on the very labor he sells. Meanwhile, the institutions writing these laws will profit from the interest on the money they create out of nothing. At first, it will seem minor, tolerable, but the precedent is set. The federal government will now tap every man's earnings. And once that door is opened, it will never close.
Reginald studied him. He tilted his head.
But surely regulation, oversight.
There is none.
Charles cut in.
That's the genius of it. The Federal Reserve isn't federal, and it holds no reserves. It's a private institution with the sole legal right to issue our currency.
He shook his head with exasperation.
Then they expect to lend it to our own government at interest. Imagine, Reginald, America will borrow its own money.
The Earl frowned, digesting that.
And now,
Charles continued.
the Revenue Service will become the Internal Revenue Service. Next year, they begin collecting income tax, and once that machine starts moving...
A slow squeeze.
Reginald murmured.
Exactly. One hand prints the money, the other hand taxes it back.
Reginald was silent for a moment, then spoke carefully.
And you've structured Lydia's dowry accordingly?
To weather what's coming,
Charles said.
Lydia's wealth will not be subject to Washington's whims.
Reginald nodded slowly.
Money is a new form of slavery. Far worse than the old.
Reginald murmured, paraphrasing Tolstoy with chilling ease.
You've given this considerable thought.
I have no choice. If the dollar is to be debased, I will not let it take my legacy with it. This marriage,
Charles added, his voice low,
ensures our family's future is tied not just to industry, but to permanence, to land, to name, to a system that, for now, remains intact on your side of the Atlantic.
Reginald leaned back, his tone thoughtful.
You see the coming century, and it unsettles you.
I see men in smoke-filled rooms writing the next 100 years with ink dipped in debt.
Charles replied.
And I'll be damned if I let them write my family out of it.
Reginald swirled his glass thoughtfully.
Every crisis births an opportunity. For some. Weatherby. The trick is to be waiting with a pen when history hesitates.
Charles turned the glass in his hand, watching the amber swirl catch the firelight. Reginald's words lingered like smoke between them, faint and curling. Outside, the wind pressed softly against the windows of Weatherby House, carrying with it the faint hum of a world-changing shape. Two men raised their glasses to progress. They drank to alliances, to futures bought and bound, to daughters whose dowries would outlive their names. In the quiet between the ticking clock and the last flicker of the fire, Charles understood what he had done. He had secured a legacy and chained it to his daughter's name.